ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. RFK Refugees Podcast. Ted here, John here. John here joining you live from, where are you today, John?
I'm in the Residence Inn Marriott downtown in Atlanta. So
nice.
That's where I'm at on an iPad. So we're on the ground here, giving it to you guerrilla style without the normal accoutrement. So
yes,
just wanted to make sure we had to get back to you guys. Like I said, we left it too long without a show to watch, or an hour plus show for you to listen to on your commute. So we had to come back, and here we are.
We are a dedicated group here to talk to you. We've been away from you guys for way too long. We wanted to jump right into it to talk soccer, to talk DC United, a little bit of Washington Spirit, very, very minor amount of Washington Spirit. But I think, John, first, I say, how was your holiday weekend? It's been like, I looked back at our rundown. Last rundown we did was December 18th, which feels like a long time ago.
Wow. That is approximately one United rumor, coach rumor, and no Washington Spirit coaches amount of time. Holidays were fine. I got sick a lot, and that's kind of all I remember about it. What about you?
Is that the kid bringing the germs in, or you just have no idea?
Who can say? I'm on planes all the time. It could be me. I could be the vector.
That's actually probably potentially true. I feel like every time I fly, I feel like there was a period where I was just like consistently getting sick. I feel fine the next day, and then the next day I'd be like sick. It'd be weird.
I was in like an indoor kids playground thing, I think on Sunday, and I could literally, as I was breathing in, I could in my mouth feel like sick. Like I felt like just molecules floating that I could eat. I was like, this is bad. I'm definitely gonna get sick from this. But that's the things you do. You do things like that.
My holidays were okay, John. I'm currently participating in a dry-ish January. It's hard to do a dry January when your birthday is also in January. So, but it's towards the end of January, so I'm currently participating in that. So, but I had a lot of fun. Got to see family, do all of the things. Avoided sickness the best I could. Had a certain family member have the flu and managed to dodge that. So that's been good. So
you gotta stay fit, because you might be called in to be a replacement ref here in February.
I might be, and I missed that on the rundown, but we'll definitely get into it. That is one thing I missed. See, I asked you for hints, and you let me down.
And I did it on the show.
There you go. Fair enough.
You're welcome. All
right, let's get into it. Let's talk DC. It's been a while since we've been away from you, and I was really, really hoping we'd get an official announcement here. We want to pull the trigger on some interviews here. We want to find out. We want to give you guys content on who this guy is, because if you're a longtime listener to the show, there was another former Red Bull coach that DC was rumored to be hired, and we did a whole show with Mark Fishkin, wonderful guy over at Seeing Red.
That's a collector's edition. That's if you have that on. It's like a what were those not NPCs? What were those? NFTs. It's like an NFT. If you have the download of that, it's worth money on the market. This show that's referring to.
I'm sure it is worth 50 cents if you get the maybe we should market that. But anyway, yes, the then eventually Hernan Losada was hired, so that took a bit of a U-turn. I think this one, what we're hearing is from Stephen Goff that a contract has been agreed to. Nothing official, but we'll definitely look to get some content out for you guys. But Troy Lesesne, one of the, maybe not the candidate on the list that I think we all had. There were 4 candidates on the list, and I think we either liked about 3 of them. And
he was not one of them.
He was not one of them. But we'll get into a little bit. I'm become a little bit more positive on his potential hiring. But let's give some info about him. If you don't know who Troy Lesesne is, former New York Red Bulls intern coach in 2023, took over when Gerhard Struber left. That team was in turmoil, chaos, all the things you could say. This was the Van Zier racial incident, and Struber did not immediately take him off. They finished the game. It was a mess, to say the least, and the team was very much sort of circling the proverbial drain. And to give Troy Lesesne credit, he came in and managed to sort of rescue that team. He finished, I believe the team finished with 14 wins. They managed 8th place in the season. So they made the playoffs. Again, not super high up, but he also didn't get really a lot of help. I think what I've heard from fans, Red Bull fans really liked him. They really wanted him to stay. Mark Fishkin, who when I tweeted him out that we'll wait to bring him on to talk about it, said a team would be very lucky to hire Troy Lesesne. So he thinks very highly of him, and I trust Mark's opinion. He also finished as a New Mexico United coach in 2018 to 2021. So he certainly has more head coaching experience than
Wayne Rooney.
Certainly more than Wayne Rooney, and certainly more down the line. But John, give me your thoughts. I know you expressed meh disappointment. Has your tune changed at all a
No,
little bit, or is it the
no,
same?
meh is still very much that. I feel like this is a. I have a couple thoughts, right? We haven't heard anything official from anybody, but one of my thoughts is if I am the GM who is very, very young, younger than I am even, and I was looking at potential head coaches for my first year in charge, first opportunity leading a team, I would not want a big personality. I would not want someone with prior GM experience. I would not want someone who overshadows me instantaneously and has a lot to say about player acquisition, a lot to say about play style, a lot of just opinions. Troy Lesesne is going to have some of those, but he's also not going to be able to enforce them on the team. Yeah, so I got it on my head now. Mackay.
It is Mackay.
Alan
I'm
Mackay.
fairly confident.
We're pretty
confident on
sure.
that.
And if we ever talk to him, we'll know for sure. But if I'm Alan Mackay, I do the same thing. So from that perspective, it makes you think this is not a move that drips with aspiration or like, it's not a move that says we're back, baby. We're going for the cup this year. We couldn't. Why would we trust our team to someone with one half season of top level experience and 3 years at second division experience and then some assistant? We wouldn't do that because we are going for the title this year. This to me says this is a long-term rebuild. This roster is not fit for purpose. We're going to take it apart. We're going to get the parts that fit. We're going to draft. We're going to be young, and then we're going to do the things that we want to do. And Mackay, I think the conversation has been saying that we want a team that can press. And people have looked at this roster and said, so that is not totally true based on the players that we have already. We're going to have to make some moves. We've made some. We need to make more. I don't know. I would say I am still whelmed. I still think this is fine. It's not a move that makes people inherently angry. It's not a move that should really excite anybody overwhelmingly. It's just a fresh start, and you have to say, if you're a DC United fan, it seems like they're not making unforced errors here. They're making the choices they want to make, and you have to have some optimism that these choices are going to work out. You gave the keys to a young GM, relatively unproven, an assistant GM in the league, and former agent, and said, "Here's your keys. You got a 3-year contract, 3-year, right? I think.
Mm-hmm.
Make your choices. You get all your calls. No, Dave Casper is not whispering in your ear like Rasputin. You can turn this roster over. There's 10 players we let go. We have a DP spot open. We have young spots open. So for better or worse, we're in the car with him. Allie's driving, and fans can decide to continue to be sad and continue to have no hope, or you just say, hurt me again. I got 3 years of hope and optimism until you prove me otherwise. Even though the last 10 years have not bought that, this move overall, both of these moves, this coach and this GM is saying, we hear you. There is not a lot of reason to trust us, but we're asking you to trust us. And if you want to trust us, maybe we can get to where we want to be here in the next couple of years. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I hear all your points, but I think the most important thing for me is this is a team, and I found it. I had a little bit of humorous fun. I can't remember whether I did this on the show chat, but I felt like DC makes this hire, and immediately everybody wants to talk about 2024. How are you going to do a press when you've got 2 30+ DPs like Benteke and Click? And I'll get into a little bit more about. There are different flavors of a press. Not every press is a Red Bull press. Let's just say you can press and still hold possession, but. And I was kind of like, I think I'm kind of happy that the team is maybe, I don't want to say completely punting 2024, because I don't think that's the case. But I think they're saying, look, we're going to, if we're not going to try to do a rush job on this and throw something together, if we can make incremental steps, incremental improvements to this roster, we want to get younger, we want to be quicker. And, I think we'll still build a squad. I mean, arguably a squad, particularly in the attack, that I think can still be a playoff caliber style attack. Even with Benteke, you have Teco Di Pietro, who again showed that he could step up. If Gabriel Pirani can sort of make that next level, and maybe being under a new coach, a new system, might be something good. and also we talk about Christian Fletcher lighting it up currently in Swansea and showing videos of five-a-side sessions where he is just absolutely feeling himself right now. So, I mean, all those are potential things that, a new coach can come in. I will say that I agree with you. I think this was a hire that was, I think they maybe did look hard at Dominic Torrent. I think there was the talk that he was sort of the next level finalist. Apparently they couldn't come to sort of any type of contract agreement,
which is not your favorite thing to read as a DC United fan.
No, it's not, because
it would be different if they had said it just wasn't a fit philosophically, whatever. But they said couldn't meet his evaluation. That don't like to hear that.
Yeah, you certainly don't. But again, I think despite all of that, again, we can only really go by what we've heard. Nobody in New York is like, boy, you guys got a stinker. This isn't like a Chris Armas situation. Everybody talks about how much they loved him. People in New Mexico loved him. So everywhere he's gone, he's found success. He's been well respected. And I think, honestly, the situation, he's shown to be a guy that can come in and sort of maybe unify a locker room. And I think that's going to be important with a team that's going to be sort of coming together and sort of trying to rebuild itself. Would I have preferred Hugo Perez or Robin Fraser maybe as my top two picks? Maybe, sure. But I think, honestly, and there are also apparently informal discussions with Bruce Arena. I think the biggest thing, of course, that came out, I think while we were on break, was that Bruce Arena was apparently had been cleared or was about to be cleared to be hired. He is not going to coach in 2023, at least not right now, but I bet he's setting himself up for a potential summer signing.
He would be very in a very good position, I think, to be like a right the ship, sort of like a New England, like he was hired in New England, sort of like fix this job. Quick aside before we go on, you brought up Chris Armas. I saw a Colorado Rapids fan talking shit on Twitter, like feeling very confident about themselves after the Zach Steffen comeback player of the year MVP is in the tweet. With Chris Armas, Zach Steffen, Jordy Mihailovic, Omer Fernandez, like Colorado, like I think you said it on somewhere. I think it might have been on Discord. Like it's like someone reminded Stan Kroenke that he has a team, and like he just like remembered the password for his email. He's like, oh wait, I have a team. I could definitely find some players, I guess. But
yeah,
every team appears to be they poke with the stick and they're doing something. So I remarked that I just like to see any level of like aspiration and trying from all the teams in MLS. So that's good. Back to DC United.
Yeah, back to DC United. Again, I think one last thing about the sort of Troy Lesesne hire, I think we've seen from the roster moves of what you're doing, and I think you've kind of hinted at the idea of going young. I've talked about this for several years about how I want this team to maximize the talent that they have in the DMV area, to really own that region, to be able to be a club, because I think it's a city where if you can build homegrown stars and homegrown talent, that's a successful formula in the I think the DC area in particular. We talk about the Alex Ovechkins, we talk about the John Walls, guys that were young and selected and drafted, and I think it's sort of a different atmosphere than some cities where you go out and get a big splashy, free agent signing like Los Angeles or something like that. So I think this is a city that you can put yourself on the zeitgeist if you by developing big time players and building sort of big time stars, because those are the types of players that we love in DC. And I sort of see that maybe the beginnings of something like that. And I think, I think it's important. I want to sort of blend some questions in here. I do want to talk about.
Thank you for the millions of questions you guys gave us during the break.
You guys are unbelievable. Let's start with our Discord, DC Ulysses. This one I sort of want. I still want to discuss because I think it's 2024 is still. I'm not saying don't discount 2024, throw it out the window. I'm saying maybe let's think about 2024, but maybe let's also put a higher emphasis on how is this team going to look in 2025 and beyond. By the way, 3-year guaranteed contract for the Troy Lesesne. So if they fire him, they're paying him for 3 years. So I think that shows.
I don't think it's a lot they're going to pay him.
Probably not. Too. Probably not. But they're still. I wonder if are they still paying Lasada? I would be curious to know that. Probably.
So he's traveling all the time.
DC Ulysses on Discord says a high press coach like Lesesne a bad fit for our current roster. Currently, the two DPs, and does something to do with the 3-year contract? In other words, Benteke and Click will be gone in 2025. Is that when the real Lesesne team will appear? Let's talk about Troy Lesesne's style of press. I think everybody is. I think it's almost like you go to Red Bull and suddenly you're stamped with the Red Bull label. Chris Armas might be the only coach maybe that doesn't get that label because he actually tried to change it. I think Troy Lesesne came into 2023. He said, this is a team in a bad fit. My primary goal is not necessarily to change the whole identity of how this team is played. My goal is to keep this team united and together after one of their players just got accused of racial abuse. So my goal is to try to get this team unified and together. That team was set up to play the Red Bull style press. You're not going to change too much. We are not aficionados on New Mexico. Maybe we'll get some people in and maybe can talk a little bit about that. But from what we have heard sort of from how he played in New Mexico, it was very much kind of a zonal style press. It's not a full on, hard, knock style of press. It's very, very different. Also with a little bit more focused on possession. And I think he's sort of talked about that a little bit, about how he wants to be more of a possession driven team. I think with response to Matthias Click, I know he's plus 30. He played at Leeds United under Jesse Marsch, who was a pressing style coach. Yeah, he'll be fine. Benteke, I think if you do what you're doing right now, which is you're surrounding him with guys like Fletcher, Tecudu Pietro, and Gabriel Pirani, who are younger, maybe quicker style players, you can maybe make up from some deficiencies. He can still kind of play that kind of target style forward. It can still work, I think, with Benteke. Will it be 100% effective? And will they definitely look, next year probably for a new player? Certainly. But I think it should still be something that could be effective for 2024.
Do you think in Troy Lesesne's interview, they asked him if he has any experience coaching teams where players have been credibly accused with racism? They were like, do you have any experience with this? Do you have I'm just wondering if in your resume you have something. And then he would just, his eyes lit up. He's like, actually, I do. I can talk about that. That was the whole time you were answering that. I was imagining the job interview and then being like, just could you give us some examples of how you keep a locker room together? Just curious, because it may have happened here. Who's to say? Who's to know?
Yeah. I think Keith Slack on Twitter, because I think we've gotten this, also asked, is there a discernible strategy or vision behind hiring Lesesne, or was he just available and willing to accept what DC would pay? I mean, I won't doubt that maybe he was one of the probably maybe a little more of an affordable option. But I think there is a long-term vision and a long-term thought, especially when you have sort of a young GM in trying to build something that maybe can last here. And I think there's no doubt that Lesesne appears to be a very young and talented coach. So this could be something you look back on as a buy low, sell high type of guy.
Maybe he's a Caleb Porter. You give a guy who's excelled at another level, give him an opportunity and see how it goes.
I mean, everybody ripped on the hiring of Ben Olsen last year and beginning of the year. Everybody thought Houston made a huge mistake hiring. Like, what are you doing hiring Ben? Turns out he's a really good coach. And I think that's maybe what we're seeing. I won't say exactly like what we're seeing with Troy Lesesne, but I think that's kind of what we're seeing. That's kind of what we're seeing right here. All right, let's move on to story number 2, sort of big story number 2 for DC United, which is Gabriel Pirani has been signed on a long-term deal. John, I know you have some thoughts about this. You were all hyped about the fact that the team was getting him on another loan. We'll get into maybe why that it is. Give me like your thoughts, opinions. Is this sour you completely on the deal?
I will say I was not happy. I thought, because it seemed like such a wise stroke there that they were able to get that based on previous reporting. I was like, this is all right. He's cooking. Ali is cooking. He's doing things that I would do. That's great. And then it turned out to be not the case. Originally, I was a little bit upset about that because I don't see what other people. It's hard to say when you're influenced by things you learn after the fact, like statistically how he was performing and chances generating being the worst in the league for the amount of minutes played versus the eye test, and that if that new information colors the way you saw things, sort of looking back. I don't see what other people are seeing where they say like, oh, he was the best looking player on the field. People were like super excited. This guy is for sure going to light it up in this league. I certainly do not see anything for sure. There was also a lot of conversation on social media and on Discord about the fact that he had other teams in Italy looking at him. And neither you or I can find any proof of that being true anywhere else. So people are acting like Inter Milan were after him. And was like, no, I will sign with DC United. I am loyal to DC United. I must come to the capital. So I don't know. I'm incomplete. The thing that turned me around though, Ted, is someone looked at the record transfer fees paid for by DC United since 20 whenever they started paying transfer fees, like 2012 or 2013. Maybe like 2020. And he's only slightly more than Nigel Robertha and Zoltan Stieber. And then when I think of it that way, our hopes are not pinned on this player. At a 1.3 million transfer fee, the world does not hinge on his success or failure. So that made me calm down a little bit about the whole thing.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear to me, and again, I have no insight into what happened, but I can just sort of read the tea leaves. I'm sure Santos was more than willing to offer to talk about an loan extension. I am sure that was predicated. They thought there is no way legendary Santos team of Pele and Neymar would ever get relegated from the Brazilian First Division, and then they got relegated. And I think that kind of possibly changed the tune where they were like, look, we kind of want him back because we need to figure out a way to get back in the Brazilian First Division. And he's a player who is clearly a top level player who will help us do that. But you guys do have the loan. So either pay us the 1.3 million, take the contract buyout, or we're not, you're going to have to pay a lot more or never at all. And so I think what happened is Mackay looked at that and said, well, yeah, maybe maybe they had a discussion, do we think we can get out of them? We've seen some good things, we've seen, we need to maybe give us something to build upon for next year. We see some good things, some things we could work on. He's going to get a brand new coach, a brand new system. He wasn't a complete bust, I would say, when he came here. I think he showed, like you said, I think eye test versus stats. But again, I tend to look at stats and I say, well, like DC was a mess. Like they were a mess heading towards that end of year. Like it was very clear things were just kind of like not good. So I think if you have a clear direction, I think he will be one of my players to watch this year. And they might hold off. I don't know. We'll see what happens with the summer. We talk about we'll get into a discussion maybe about where we think they go this year, whether they do get a DP in January, or maybe they just kind of sit tight, build out the depth, and then maybe look to the summer. This would maybe the one time I'd be okay with that. And put Pirani out there, see what he can do. He is on a U22 deal, so this is the U22 initiative, and that allows you to take these types of flyers, maybe these types of risks. Maybe find a diamond in the rough type of thing.
It is I'm sorry. Compare that to the risk that LA Galaxy is taking for the Under 22 initiative, where they're looking at players from Brazil for $10 million in the same age range. So this is the kind of swing that we can afford to take, which is fine. We had a little bit of familiarity with them. It's fine. It's weird. This year we're seeing a lot of MLS players move back to South American club teams. Mm-hmm. There's just across the league. We've seen a big number of that. Leaving Portland, leaving Seattle, leaving Atlanta. And it's making me think, like, what if in the future, like, Copa Libertadores, like, involved North American teams somehow, or like some version of it? Like, we have our CONCACAF Champions League, or maybe just do call it Leagues Cup, and then expand that. I'm just imagining how much cooler it would be to expand the pool of potential challengers to these South American teams that MLS clubs raid for their talent anyway. So obviously there'd be some clubs that would just I wouldn't say. Like, I want to see our best against Boca Juniors. I would love to see that. What that would look like in a actual competitive format. It's a pipe dream, particularly as Leagues Cup has taken up a lot of the oxygen in the calendar. But boy, that's just a dream I'm having now as I'm thinking.
And another thing, just sort of to get it back to circle back a little bit to Pirani. I mean, I guess you would say if Santos gave you the choice, either pay the 1.3 million to take him or lose him, what would you do, John? Would you take him?
Take him.
Yeah.
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 Like I said, now, if you took Nigel Roberta from a club in Bulgaria and he came here and did nothing for 3 years and you released him, that's the risk you take. And this is a player with a higher upside who's younger.
Yeah. He of course won the 2023 Pan America Games with Brazil, played a major role in that team. Again, Pan America Games, not the creme de la creme of international tournaments. And he's part of the Olympic team. I believe he's on the Olympic. I believe actually he probably will not be there for the start of preseason, which might be a little interesting because there's going to be some sort of pre-Olympic type games and he will be gone for that. So
he'll miss the Saudi Arabian, which we'll talk about in a second here. That was on the list.
Saudi Arabia excursion, exactly. All right, two sort of other minor signings that have happened. I think positives in a certain sense. Jacob Murrell, their 7th pick in the draft, their first round pick in the draft, has apparently decided to forego college eligibility and sign with DC United. He's a big, tall forward. Again, John and I have not watched Georgetown. We can only sort of report what we're hearing. But we'll see what happens. Could he be loaned to Loudoun? Could he spend some time? I think right now with the way the roster's shaping up, he probably makes the bench and maybe plays a role. It seems to me maybe they're envisioning him as kind of a backup, Benteke backup, as sort of like a big target guy. I believe he's 6'3", so he's definitely not Benteke levels of athleticism and height, but he certainly is a tall player that can maybe
yeah, good luck meeting the Benteke standard of being the best player in the air that MLS has ever seen, most likely. Duncan McGuire is a name that continues to be brought up around the type of player they're hoping he turns into. You'll remember a rookie from Orlando who scored almost, I think, maybe double-digit goals last year. Mm-hmm. I think that they had to make an offer to him that was credible for him to forego 2 years at Georgetown. So I would be betting that he was told that he would be in and around the senior team. I don't think he leaves Georgetown to go play for Loudoun. So to your point, I think they must have said, hey, depending on how things go in preseason, how you show, we could very much see an opportunity for you to, get some minutes this year, and then we'll see where you're at going into 2025.
Yeah. And sort of more minor is Nate Crockford, goalkeeper from, I think it was Wisconsin. I didn't put the college down on the rundown, but
I think that's correct.
Yeah, but he was the 3rd round pick goalkeeper. Apparently Miller, still recovering from his shoulder injury that he suffered at the end of last year. Apparently doesn't look like he will be ready in time. So this is sort of a emergency / goalkeeper death, probably pretty cheap, but maybe a guy they think can get some minutes and show. I think we're probably looking at week 1, Alex Bono being the starter.
This is a player who is going to get minutes in the preseason and then likely will never even see the bench, with Zamudio taking the bench spot. This is an emergency signing. I think that this is the kind of guy, if you had an MLS Next Pro side ready to go, you'd sign and stash and say, we've got now our pool is 4 instead of 3. We don't. So I think they'll sign him for now and probably waive him, or maybe they'll, depending on the contract they sign him, probably non-guaranteed. But if he's signed for the year, they might loan him out so he gets some minutes somewhere.
Yep.
But not Loudoun, because they have 2 goalies already that they're in love with. So Hugo Farreau is probably going to play most games then.
This team, I really hope we get in. This organization, I understand they want to put the team in Baltimore. I am at the point now where I'm just like just start a team.
You can move it to Baltimore. No one's going to care.
Just get a Next Pro team, play them at Audi Field. There'll be 5 people in the stands. Who cares? Play it at Segra Field. Find a dates. Who cares? But they need to get a move on this. They really risk, and I really am serious. They risk falling behind because we're seeing teams like the Columbus Crew that have maximized that ability to sort of have the depth. And when you pick up injuries, you need that type of depth. So
the Columbus Crew have performed so well in the MLS Next Pro League that their coaches are being hired to coach MLS sides.
Yeah.
This is a credible opportunity. To your point, these draft picks that you have been previously not taking serious at all and have not panned out. To be fair, they've not gone somewhere else and then succeeded. So that's part to do with poor scouting and maybe player pool. But you need a place to stash these players and give them an opportunity to develop within your philosophy. Gotta do it.
Yeah, I got to do it. Let's get to the probably the actual bad news bad news relative on the list, which is DC United heading to Saudi Arabia for preseason, which I don't think anyone this here necessarily love. But it is what it is, I guess, on that front. So they're heading to Saudi Arabia for preseason. I think then they will return to Florida, if I understand correctly.
No, these games will probably not be streamed.
Yeah.
Before you tweet, maybe they will though. Maybe they. I mean, the game. Maybe they will. Who knows?
That would be at least like one benefit, one small benefit to this is if like you're going to go to Saudi Arabia, you're going to take that Saudi Arabian money to go have your preseason. Like the least you could do is stream these games. Are we playing like? I'll be very curious to see who we play. Are we playing the Saudi teams and like a lot of them? I'd be curious to know who will be on that roster because a lot of those teams, if you haven't been keeping up with, a lot of players who sign there are like, nope, actually, yes, the money's nice, but my family's not really happy here. I'm not really happy here, and I'd like to go back, please. I'd like to leave. So
it is a bummer that Benteke has to come to DC to report for camp because he lives in Dubai. So you're telling me he has to fly across the world to go check in and get weighed and then fly all the way back to Saudi Arabia. That sucks. They should let him not do that. If you're listening, DC United, don't make him fly over here. Give him a break.
That's a player. There are some players I think that will end up in that Gulf region, and I'm sure we'll be perfectly happy.
He's right there.
Gulf region.
I think that's certainly a place for him to retire and spend his last couple seasons. I think that's right.
Yeah, Jordan Henderson from Liverpool, I don't think was necessarily one of the players who would necessarily be happy in Saudi Arabia. But anyway,
he talked a big game about how great of a move it was. I think what happened was the dollar sign, like the cartoon spinning dollar signs in his eyeballs. He's like, "Oh, I think it's actually great. I love it here."
And I know this is a quick aside. I did not have this on the rundown. But a quick aside about this is like how smart. Like hearing all these stories about people being unhappy at Saudi Arabia. The games that there's TV contracts in for I'm pretty sure for these games, but
they're on Fox Sports.
I think I've had them show up, and I think it may have been AFC Champions when I turn on morning footy and just kind of let it run while I work, and then suddenly I'm look up, oh, there's AFC Champions League games on. I mean, some of the crowds do not look interesting. The games themselves are not interesting. I have no desire to sit and watch them. I think we're seeing sort of the money doesn't solve all problems type of aspect here. It's similar to what happened a lot with when China was big into all of this too.
But since we're down this aside, not like the show is going to be long anyway, so let's just go down this aside.
Fair.
The differences, and a couple differences I think that are worth drawing out. China, the problem why China failed is the checks stopped cashing because they wanted to. The purpose for the Chinese league was to. And similar to Saudi Arabia, they wanted to create a better level of domestic players so they could compete internationally better to benefit the league and to benefit the country like in a sporting way. Saudi Arabia continues to do these things solely as a means of geopolitical reputation management or laundering or however you want to call it. And here's the thing, for better or for worse, and probably for worse, is it's working exceedingly well in a very short amount of time. Like DC United are going here. Inter Miami are going there. You got the biggest players because you gave them the most money. That's not exciting. But the fact that they continue to pull teams over, you have them. They're on Fox. The conversations have stopped being necessarily about like how dare these players go over there, and people have just sort of stopped paying attention to it writ large. But they still have the big names, and people look up like, oh, what did Neymar go? Oh, he went over to Saudi Arabia. I didn't know that. So, I think that I was listening to a podcast this week talking about the big trends for 2024, and they were just saying like the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is in a place where no one else has the money they have, and unfortunately, for like a geopolitical reasons, like you have to swallow hard a lot of times from a Russia, China, U.S. perspective. Like basically, they were just saying that like you in the long term have to get kind of used to the idea that Saudi Arabia will be ever present. Just because they are the only people that have money, and they are making reforms at a very fast pace, and they are killing journalists with bone saws. Like both of those things are true at once, and they're just basically saying like, just know like in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, like they're just going to be a regular part of the conversation. It will not be so much like, can you believe that they're able to bring these players over here? They're just going to be like any other place, and it's crazy to think about because of where we are right now and where we were maybe even 5 years ago. But it's. Smart people are looking at this and just saying like this sports watching is effective.
It is.
Look for other countries that are in similar situations to really invest this way because, well, not everybody has that money, but if they do, it just changes the dynamic so quickly that it's unbelievable how quickly it changed it.
Yeah, we've seen what's been happening with golf. I mean, they've had F1 races in Saudi Arabia, and it's all just kind of been, part of the calendar. And the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia owns Newcastle United at this point, and that
It's
was
just crazy, man.
a big hubbub, and again died away. It's sports watching is extremely effective. Even when the Qatar World Cup, we talked about that as sort of the you don't talk anymore about the things that happened. I mean, from an American perspective, I think it has a sort of sad overtone in that we lost Grant Wall during that tournament. But I think all the talks sort of leading up to it. Then Messi wins the World Cup, and now nobody's talking about nobody really talking anymore about it. Everybody's talking about, Messi finally got his World Cup. So it's effective. It's sad in a way because of how effective it is and how there are still massive issues in those countries where their own citizens, and I'm not just talking about, their own citizens are suffering, particularly, LGBTQ and gay people in those countries are suffering tremendously under those laws that they have. And it's a shame. It's a shame at how effective it is at kind of just sort of, hijacking the conversation. And I will agree that I think there will still be players that will see those dollar signs and run. But I think with some of these other moves that we're seeing, and sort of the first, we're seeing kind of the first forays, and maybe they adjust and improve. Maybe they figure out ways to, to offer better sort of, maybe they look at it, maybe they kind of say, well, paying them a bunch of money wasn't enough. We're now going to make sure that, their families are happy. We're going to give them, options. As to whether that works or not, I don't know. I think for some, you'll still have those people, they come over, they see the dollar signs, they spend a year here, and they're like, look, man, my family's, miserable. We're not really enjoying our time here. We really want to go back, which happens everywhere, to be honest. I mean, it does happen everywhere, to be honest.
Particularly with British people. British people are notorious for traveling and hating it.
I mean, look what happened with Wayne Rooney here in DC. I mean, it was like he was here a year and a half, and it's like, look, my family's miserable. I need to get out of here. This is like not good.
Colleen acting like DC is Riyadh. Just like, there's no culture here. I have to get out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so completely went off the rails this show. I feel like we were on a nice tight path, and then
I wanted us to not be. I wanted us to, take the scenic tour on our first show back. Do you want to put the referee information right here? That's sort of like a good fit before we go to the Spirit.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's talk MLS referees. So if you haven't been paying attention, and this is something that is near and dear to my heart as somebody who is a referee, the Professional Soccer Referee Association, of course, has been negotiating a contract, a new sort of collective bargaining agreement with MLS, and apparently things are not going well. PSRA is definitely, I think, trying to sort of step up. They want, higher pay. They want their sort of demands met. I think higher pay is sort of the biggest thing. And apparently they are extremely far apart. I think they wanted like something like a 50, 60, 70, 80% increase, some high percentage. And like MLS was like, here's a 5% or here's a 3% increase. So things are apparently they're very far apart. It looks like there might be a work stoppage sort of imminent between these sides. And, I think it seems to me maybe there was some play at part. If you haven't read, again, still in a fantastic piece to read, go check out Pablo Maurer's piece where he basically was spent the day sort of following the MLS Cup final referees around. And it's a fantastic piece to read. Really well done. Pablo, again, love him or dislike him. I think there's some people that think he's a little full of himself. He is, in my opinion.
He can be. Sometimes you can be when you're talented.
Yeah, he is still the preeminent soccer writer, writing things that I think he is one of the most creative soccer writers in this country right now. We've lost Grant Wall, who I think also had that ability to sort of think outside the box. He wrote the LA Galaxy and the Beckham story, which again was a story, but sort of convincing. But to do the types of things that he does, and the amount of work he puts into it is incredible. But anyway, so back to the original point. So what we've seen from a lot of discourse with fans, and what I've seen is people be like, "Oh, that means we don't get Ted Uncle." Oh, that means, and I want to stop people right there. In all these situations, never be on the side of management when it comes to labor, particularly labor that is trying to fight for better pay. I understand there are people out there that don't like certain referees, that think referees are they're all terrible. They're all out to get your team. And I tell you, that's
And
completely
they are.
false.
They all are. All of them. They all hate all of you in the world. They hate your favorite team.
But if we want to start the conversation of having better referees, maybe we need to pay them better. The scale that these referees make, I think, is somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000 at sort of the top end. Again, that's the top end. Your referees that are just breaking in, $50,000 might be nice, but they're still probably working a second job. And a lot of referees, I'd say most, if not all referees, this is sort of a side thing for them. They usually have a main job where they are getting income. So increasing their pay maybe turns them more into a full-time job, and then they can actually focus. And maybe if you can get younger referees where they're making this and they say, hey, this is a career, I can go be a professional MLS referee at 23, 24, and I can develop and be better than when I'm, then just breaking in at like 28 and 29, and then having maybe 4 or 5 years of like decent before, my experience starts to run out. That all comes from better pay, and that comes from paying these referees better and fostering that talent. It's the same thing as fostering soccer talent. It's just different. We will say we have had this before. In 2014, there was an actual work stoppage for the referees. It didn't really go well, I think, for the PSRA. I think they were maybe thinking they basically brought in some older referees, some guys who hadn't refereed in MLS in a while. They brought in some maybe some outside referees from across Central America. Things didn't really. There wasn't the Fail Mary moment in week 3 of the NFL season, which, go look it up if you don't know what that is. There wasn't sort of a flashpoint moment where there was just such a bad call. What I will say, I think maybe the fact that the Professional Soccer Referee Association, PSRA, thinks maybe they have an opportunity here is that VAR is now into the conversation. And that is something that requires like a training. Like you actually have to be certified to do VAR. It's not something you can just hop in and stick a bunch of guys on the computer screen. Like there's protocols, so there's things you have to follow. There is necessary training to go do that. So I think, and also the PSRA is much more unified. I think when it started, there was just sort of the top end of the MLS guys. So basically MLS said, well, we'll just go down and grab guys from USL, guys from the lower divisions. Now it's more sort of across the board between the lower divisions and the top divisions. So I think there's more unified. I think they will probably be more successful this time around. It's going to be a question of if MLS brings in a bunch of international FIFA referees and pays them more from people who are not a part of the PSRA, that could then maybe make things fine. But they've got a lot of people they're going to have to hire. So this will be a story to watch as we enter the season. I could see it kind of going like 2014, or I could see us having really bad sort of flashpoint moments that maybe serve the PSRA well and might cause things to go into their favor. So something to watch.
It's such a tricky scenario for them because public sentiment, beyond sort of like, rote I support labor, like people love to hate referees. So very hard. It's very hard for someone to be like, listen, if it means I have to not see my team play, if we need to stop the league from playing because these referees want to go on strike and get there, I support it. I don't think we should. They're not going to do that. They're just be like, I don't bring in robots. I don't care. Bring in whatever, like a guy on a Segway. I don't care. The games have to happen. So it would be very funny though. The funniest outcome, to your point, is that they bring in FIFA trained referees and it's no better. It's like the guys that you were paying $50,000. And then the people you're bringing in as scabs paying $200,000, the outcome is the same. There's missed calls. There's VAR cards you don't agree with. They also hate your favorite team, even though they just figured out who they were this year because they were in England. Like, very interesting. I hope it pans out, but no matter what happens, provided the games occur, something interesting has a possibility here to happen.
The games are going to happen. I think this is like 2014. I don't think this will stop. This will stop the games from happening. I think again, I feel like the public sentiment aspect that we've seen, MLS will think, well, like it doesn't matter. We should just go out, just grab some referees and go play them. I think we'll see what the PSRA does down the sort of down to sort of the national level, do they maybe say, I think what they should be doing right now, if there is a work stoppage, is focusing their efforts on preventing those referees from maybe crossing the picking line, or those guys from and apparently they say they have a pretty hefty salary. I will say, like, the biggest problem you could potentially have is if they go down to like some of the national and state level referees to sort of bring them up for these games, and here they're getting their first opportunity to do a professional game. And
Ted,
you're
keep
gonna have
your
to tell
phone
them,
number updated. Keep your phone updated.
I am nowhere. By the way, guys, I am nowhere near ready for this. But it'd be interesting to see if they could get him trained on VAR too, because that would be sort of the one big thing. The one big
If they
thing.
do, you got to wear an RFK Refugees sticker on your shirt. If you do get the call up, if you're like being a fourth official against Inter Miami, you got to figure out a way to like work the show in. Like if someone scores a goal, you pull up your jersey and it has RFK Refugees written on it. Something we got to talk about it. We got plans.
Yeah,
just in case.
Yeah. All right, I think that's going to do it for the news. Let's hit maybe a couple questions before we close out, or before we close out DC talk, because all our questions were related to DC. If you have Spirit questions, please send them in. You have a very good chance of having them read on the show, because we do not get the
100%.
the volume of DC questions versus the volume of Spirit questions is very limited. So definitely send those in. I wanted to get this from Brendan Zaborn on Twitter. I underlined this as we have time, but I think it's actually, I've read it over. I think it's a good point. It said Matt Doyle did a little preview of the depth chart. As of now, do you expect more signings for starters or depth pieces? My answer is yes. I think we see. You look at the 11. I think the real big question is out there on that right wing. The question's going to be, does Lesesne and Mackay, do they think Christian Fletcher's ready to sort of maybe take that role? Do you think Jackson Hopkins is ready to step up? What happens? Do you think Martin Rodriguez is in there, or do you maybe look to bring in? Is that maybe where you look for the DP? Is that where you bring in the designated player? I don't know. I think that is an interesting conundrum. Matt Doyle also had them playing sort of a 3-2-1-4-2 or something like that, or a 3-4-2 or something, 3-4-3 or something like that. I don't think we'll see three defenders with this team. I don't think they have the depth for that right now. So again, and I think you're probably looking at maybe at least one more established center back type depth.
Yes,
center back for a starter,
not depth.
Yeah, starter.
I think you have a rotational three center backs. I think you've got Birnbaum. I don't think Jared Barnett, who's the guy they signed from St. Louis. I think he is not even Brendan Hines-Ike level at this point. I think you need to get one more guy you're very comfortable starting next to Birnbaum in a rotation with Matai. I think that's a must-have. That cannot not happen.
Yeah,
you cannot go to war with the army you have here in defense.
No, there's going to be. I expect a lot of moves to start flying in for this team, whether they're via trades. Maybe we'll see some most of the free agents I think have kind of been used up. So I think you're going to see a lot of trades coming in.
Lesesne is going to be working the phones like Wayne Rooney, bringing over all his friends. I'm sure he's got the hookup in the USL. We'll find some folks.
Yeah, but you're right. Bartlett, by the way, is the defender. I think he is very, very depth. I think he is very, very raw compared to Brendan Hines-Ike, who may be a little bit more established, but I think you're seeing depth. I think that's sort of right attacking position, and maybe sort of then the depth back below, with the idea that I think by summer, your hope is that Akinbone is locked down that starting role. Like, he is the best starter out there. He is flying high, and then maybe you start to field some offers for him, which I think could happen close to the end of 2024. Also forgot,
and just to remind everybody, Donovan Pines is not here. Some people will still ask about Donovan Pines. I believe he is not here. He's got an offer from Barnsley, I believe, 3rd Division England.
Yeah, he's talking with Barnsley. I don't think anything's sort of done yet.
Nope.
He might end up back on. Nothing's set in stone. Nothing's set in stone for him. I think he is very much, his head is turned. DC is the no one else wants me. Fine, I guess I'll go back and talk to DC. I think that's what Mackay was certainly talking about when he was like, Well, we'll talk if the interest is there. I think they've said, here's our offer. And he said, okay, thank you. Let me go see what else is out there. And then
I
we'll,
feel like he doesn't do that. I feel like he doesn't fill the role that we just talked about what we needed, though. I wouldn't call
yeah,
him like I feel like his spot is gone. I feel like with the trade with St. Louis, that was his spot. And they're hoping and Matai is having more. It's going to be more of a feature. So I don't know. It doesn't
yeah.
seem like there's room for him.
You might be right. You might be right. I don't know. We'll see. I wouldn't close the door until he's holding up a shirt from another team. I don't know if that door is necessarily closed for him just yet, but we'll wait and see. As far as death pieces, I think this team needs a lot, particularly center and midfield. There's not a whole lot there past Matthias Klick and Russell Knaus. I think obviously you want to bolster that depth in there. But a player to watch.
I say you can't have hope of another Knaus like Iron Man season because he's only had 2 ever. So just keep that in mind from a depth perspective.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to watch. I think one player maybe we're not really talking that hasn't really been getting a lot of talk, but one player I'm watching is Jeremy Garea. I think this is a crucial year for him.
Is he on the team still?
He's still on the team. He's still on the roster.
So Loudon waived him, yet he's still on DC United's team. He was officially waived by Loudon.
I thought he was still technically on. I have to go back and look. Maybe he
is.
He's still listed. He's still listed on the club roster. So I can.
And they've made changes. So that would be weird to have. They got rid of other players who were gone.
Yeah. And also, you also neglected to mention Garrison Tubbs, who might be a guy.
You're right. Another spot that Donovan Pines has been taken from. Another young player that's going to get rotational minutes in those positions.
Yeah.
Or to your point, Ted, or to your point, like you made previously about 2024, maybe all these kids play all the time, and maybe that was part of the thinking in this hiring. Like we're not expecting you to win MLS Cup this year. We want you to give all these young players minutes and have them better at the end of the season than they were at the beginning. That's your only job. Yeah. This year, that's your job.
Jeremy Garea is still listed as a midfielder. He's still listed as under contract in the announcement. So he's still there.
Okay.
Anyway, so I think you're going to see a lot of moves coming up. I think especially now that you have a coach, there's maybe another voice in the room. Maybe that also. I think maybe you're also. It's hard to attract players when you don't know who the coach is because that's the guy they're going to have the most interaction with. So maybe Lesesne causes some players, maybe some former Red Bulls, maybe some guys from his New Mexico days want to come and join the team. Who knows? And let's talk. Richard Rolson has this good question. What position would you target for a third DP? Would you sign a third DP this winter or for the summer? First, let's answer the first talk. Where are you targeting? Let's assume winter. Where are you targeting for a designated player? Center back.
Yep.
No.
Yep. I look at what a world class defensive genius like Chiellini did for LAFC. I look at what Walker Zimmerman did for Nashville. I think that's a tremendously undervalued position. I think it's less expensive than a goal scoring position. If you were to bring in a player like Matt Miazga, for all you think about him, or a Miles Robinson, like Cincinnati has both, I think there is an immediate change in your ability to keep goals out of the net. I think that the problem is you have Birnbaum still on a high salary for another year beyond this one. If you were able to somehow rid yourself of that somehow with a trade, some sort of relief in that way, and you had some salary space, I think center back is amazing. And other than that, right wing, but that's a lot more expensive, and you'll pay a premium for that.
Well, keep in mind, DC United right now has 2 open U22 slots. If they sign a senior level DP that makes above the designated player or the TAM level that you can basically buy down, which is like 1.6 million, that includes the transfer fee. They lose one of those U22 slots. We've seen the team talk about how they want to maximize those slots. That's where they want to look to grow. I would be on board with a young designated player signing. I would actually more look as far as like a defensive player. I would look more towards that U22 slot to fill that role. Find a young defender who's extremely talented, who you're bringing in to, maybe a guy you're looking to grow for the next few years, and then look more towards the attack end for a maybe still a young DP, but a guy that maybe is a little bit more expensive, that sort of meets that designated player threshold. So something to watch. I think I would not be surprised if they wait till the summer. I think if you wait till the summer, it's going to depend. If Gabriel Pirani has completely turned around those analytic numbers, is assisting, he's contributing to goals, he's linking up with Teku Pietro, and they have combined for 15 goals and 15 assists by the summer. You have your number 10, and then you can look elsewhere. I think a lot's going to depend. I think Gabriel Pirani is going to be, if it goes well, I think you see them look maybe elsewhere in the summer. And I think that's why I think they're going to maybe keep their powder dry for the summer. And I would not be 100% against that right now. So,
what was the second half of that question?
It says, do you think they sign a third DP this winter or wait for the summer?
Okay, yeah, I agree with you that the summer is more than likely.
Yeah.
Again,
this is the one time I'm like, yeah, wait till the summer, because we're building something here. We're doing something. So we're not just. And
they're never going to come out and say that our goal is to not. They're going to say our goal is to make the playoffs. That's what they're always going to say.
Yeah,
and that still may be true with also the secondary goal of development is the primary objective for these players.
I think if Matej Akambone starts to gain serious minutes and starts to really develop, I think a Christian Fletcher makes that sort of leap. If Teku Pietro continues his tear, if Gabriel Pirani starts to turn it off, I think this is a playoff team. I mean, even as constructed, and you get some other help in there. Again, a lot of teams can make the playoffs, and I guess that's what I'm looking for if we want to call a successful year in 2024, is if this team makes strides where you can see, okay, there's something building here. They have a Cincinnati, not last year, but the year before type season where they're 4th, 5th in the playoffs, and they are, not really, but they kind of have a huge bounce back where suddenly people start to take notice. I think that should be the goal for this team, not necessarily to go out and win the cup. I mean, nice also to win the Open Cup. Maybe we could use that as a springboard. We'll see. Jesse in the 202 also on Discord with a kind of a cheeky question. Can account this team's resources, available players, and where other teams in MLS are. Is Ben Olsen the greatest DCU coach ever DCU has ever had? I would say absolutely, sure. That's certainly the conclusion we would come to. No, it's probably Bruce Arena, but as a joke question, yes. This also came after our boy Wayne Rooney, no longer at Birmingham City. Oh man, what wild that whole saga. There's got to be a book coming out about that saga. There has to be something.
Fred Briand very excited about the fact that he done uprooted his family for 12 weeks in Birmingham.
He's also he's also looks like he is no longer with the team. So Troy Lesesne wants to bring his own staff. I think I think we talked about. I think some people said, well, this is what you do. We're talking about a rebuild, complete separation. I'm like, on the surface, yes, I agree with that. I think it might be helpful to have a guy who is young, hasn't been around the team very long, but also still has like a rapport with the players. You're asking a lot. You're asking a lot of him. So
unless you can convince Steve Birnbaum to do it, I think you got to bring back Briand, or maybe Bill Hamid. Bill Hamid for bench coach. Somebody.
Maybe
it would be great. I think that there is. To your point, the conversation was nothing about this team in the last 10 years is worth saving, and I don't think that's true. I think that there's you have one of your assets. If you're DC United, is who DC United has been over time. And if you're able to find a player who knows that and can say, I think there's a value in the in my day conversation. It doesn't have to be Fred. It could be a number of players who have gotten their, I don't think there are a high degree of expectations on your third assistant coach. If you were to go find an ex-DC United player who's interested, that can contribute in some way, you should do it. I think there's enough players out there that you could think of.
Yeah I think it's I think the top end we wanted change, and I think we're getting that change. Once you start getting a little below that, I think there's some importance maybe to have some type of connection, and I just think he can offer a bridge. Is more. I'm not saying he's going to be making big tactical decisions, and I think you want to be a place that can maybe grow some coaches. we'll see where he ends up. I wish him the best. I think he has always been a great guy, and I think from what we have not heard, we've heard all but good things about his time here in DC. All right, let's shift gears. Let's talk about Washington Spirit. The Washington Spirit. I don't think if we went back in time when Michelle Kang took over the team coming off a 2021 championship, we would maybe be less sure about the Spirit now than we are about DC right now, to be honest. Vibes are not good. There's another super team that's sort of developed and has basically been gobbling up all the free agents. New York Gotham have signed Rose Lavelle, Crystal Dunn, Tarina Davidson, and Emily Sana after coming off winning the NWSL championship. So they just literally they took their strong team and made it even stronger. So yeah.
They have assembled this Voltron here quite clearly, but also they have become the team that everyone should hate. Everyone should be rooting against Gotham. If you are, I can't help you. If you look at Gotham and say, "Oh, that's great, they have all these good players. I like them now. I hope they win. I hope they look like they're gonna have a lot of fun." No, your job as a fan is to be like, "I hope they are in last place. I hope nothing but bad things befall them."
And again, man, off season, the Spirit probably in 2022 would not have been predicted. 2021 with the Spirit looked like almost like this was like the Michelle Kang came in. 2022 was supposed to be like where this team was going to ascend to be like a power in the NWSL. You had all these young talents who won a trophy ahead of schedule, who were dangerous, who were fun, and it all just completely fell apart. Get a lot of big, and I'm not necessarily including any of these players of having big personalities. I mean, there's been nothing to say that to the effect, but sometimes there is such thing as too much of a good thing. If you are just signing players to build yourself a good team and you're building a fantasy team, sometimes there's not someone there saying like, wait a minute, this isn't fitting. This isn't working. So remains to be seen. They could struggle. They could absolutely struggle. We've seen it happen before. Chelsea spent $1 billion on their roster, and they struggle. So it's possible to happen. Still no word. It looks like I think at this point we can say Jonathan Giraldez will be the coach of the Washington Spirit. It's just eventually he will probably come in the summer. Leads the question: who's going to be leading this team? Who's going to be coaching this team? And I think that's still been a frustrating thing about the fact that this team still can't seem to find everybody. And apparently they were also chasing some of these free agents. I think, was it Crystal Dunn or was it Tarana Davidson? They were maybe also chasing.
Tarina Davidson was not on but Crystal Dunn was in conversations about that because she has family here as well. Her rationale was I'm from New York, so I want to be near family. But there hasn't been any other conversations. There hasn't been any other links to players. Although that is not true. Who's the right back for Chicago that's coming here? I'll find that. That's been the Athletic recently. But so the Washington Spirit, the question of who's going to coach them in the near term, that has not been confirmed, but Mike Bristol, who's the director of player personnel and an assistant coach, is most likely to lead it, according to Goff. So that is not exciting from a standpoint of like they've got to get all the way to June for this coach to come in and install his system. It's very much an Emma Hayes situation where he's coaching another team, but he'll have an opportunity likely to say how he wants to set the team up going forward and then just sort of slide into it. So I think it remains to be seen. I don't know how great that is. The fact that Mark Krikorian will be the man in charge of the draft here in a couple weeks or a week. I don't even know when it is. Sometime, I think it's next week. So it's hard to say. I think you've had this coach identified and he's likely to be the one. You can hopefully try to stock some players that would fit that style. The club has 2 first-round draft picks, I believe, this year, or is it? I think they do. They have some top-level draft picks. They might have had to give one away in the second round for draft protection in the expansion draft, but the team has holes still. Right back is still an open question now with Dorian Bailey having been taken. I think that was by AFC. I'm pretty sure. There's lots of so questionable There's lots of moves to be made. I don't know what we can talk. Let's talk about the salary cap real quick. I think
By the
that's
way,
a part.
I just want to jump up. Casey Kruger,
That's the name.
is the player. She's a free agent that the Spirit have apparently close to signing.
So there's your right back, by the way.
There's your right back, and Nicole Barnhart, also coming from free agency. Welcome back, Nicole Barnhart. That it's just really kind of like with all the news about the Gotham and every of them signing, and then it's like, welcome back. All due respect to Nicole Barnhart, she's been a longtime player in NWSL, been a great goalkeeper in NWSL. All due respect, but I mean, I think even if you talk to her, she'd be like, yeah, like it's definitely like,
bad timing for me. Not the best timing for me.
I don't want to be following up. I don't want to be following up like two like US, basically what 2-3 U.S. soccer Hall of Famers that have signed free agent contracts between Lavelle, Dunn, and Sonnet. I don't know if you call Davidson that level yet, but certainly those three are U.S. soccer Hall of Famers to be coming up. So go ahead. Sorry, you wanted to move on to a new topic.
No, yeah, I was just going to say we don't necessarily know what kind of players they can bring in because we don't know the salary cap situation. But hilariously, the NWSL was able to increase their salary cap by 40% this offseason, and it still remains under $3 million. So just so you know how much room there is to grow, I think where clubs are getting $50 million evaluations or $60 million in the case of Portland Thorns, I think 40% a year over year is probably the path they need to be taking on this. Oh, I was also going to say that Paige Mateo got a new deal and is re-signed for 3 years, so good for her.
Yeah, good for her. I will say about the salary cap is $2.75 million doesn't seem good. I think it's good that it went up. I think it's good that it's increasing. I think it is a reflection of the competition that they know that they have to start, putting their money where their mouth is if they want to hold on to certain players, if they want to pay certain players, if they want to keep certain players from going to Europe. Because now going to Europe or going to Liga MX is not a death nail for making the national team. In fact, there's a lot of players that have gone outside and have done very, very well for themselves. And those clubs all have a lot more money on their men's side in a lot of cases that they can afford to spend basically in, really with their budgets. It's like a line item. So I think it's positive that the salary cap increased. I think it's positive that we're going to see, I think it's allowed for more moves like this in free agency. They can offer better contracts to those players and still fit them all within the cap. Michelle Kang, by the way, she dropped, continuing to build her women's soccer empire, global women's soccer empire, buying the London City Lionesses. Funny enough, a team like I legitimately thought, and this is totally bad on my part, I thought every single like women's soccer team in England was like attached in some way to like the men's side. So the fact there was like another club, and it's like, this is not a club. And I looked around, there are others too. So just out of interesting, like I thought it was like a given that all these clubs just had attachments to men's side. So the fact that there's like this like independent club that's in like the second division against all these other massive teams that have massive budgets is really cool. So
pretty recently founded too, I believe.
Yeah,
like fan founded.
That's cool. Yeah. So that's some money into there, and I'm not against Michelle Kang flexing some muscles and building, I guess, a city football group for the women's side. I think there's not really anybody else. Really, she's probably the biggest sort of overarching investor in soccer. She's apparently still looking at. I think Lyon is still probably within her sights. I don't think that can be officially announced until the Reign have sort of been moved on. I think that's kind of the holdout there. So it's like she signed on the dotted line, but it's like, we can't really let this take effect because we can't really give you much control or let you do much because technically we still owe Reign, and that's a conflict of interest for you with owning the Spirit. Also, we'll see the rebrand apparently coming for the Spirit. It's been very, very quiet on that front.
It's coming. I have inside sources that it's extremely done.
Can you tell us, is there a new name change, or is it just the colors?
It's just colors.
Oh, it's just colors. That's it.
Mm-hmm. It's what you're thinking. That's all I'll say. Folks who have been thinking very publicly about what it is, I think you're right.
Okay.
I think the other thing to say too, the last sort of Spirit related thing that I wanted to say that I've now forgotten around Michelle Kang. Oh, the Washington Spirit have re-upped their training center deal with DC United for 3 more seasons.
Oh yeah,
I think that's of note because numerous times Michelle Kang went up into the press box and talked about how close she was. Potential, she was taking site tours around the area. She was feeling good about it, and now 3 years for sure they'll be at in Loudoun. So I think that's a matter of, she doesn't have infinite capital. She's got money, but the London City Lionesses could not have cost very much money. So I'm not gonna pretend that that's a situation, but the Lyon Club costs some money. And I don't think the Spirit are necessarily profitable yet either. So I would be curious to see if there's some sort of a capital flow problem for Michelle when she's looking at, and also 8% interest rates, 7% interest rates on financing are still a challenge. So
yeah, and I think it's also, I think there might be I think maybe she got in and she thought maybe there was some government prerogatives she had to go through to acquire the land. Maybe there was some zoning. Who knows? I mean, there's a lot. It can all seem very simple when you're touring sites and you're looking for sites, and then suddenly you're kind of like, I don't like what I see right now, or this is not going to be ready in time for me, or I need to wait a few more years.
She was looking at Potomac Yard, and then she heard someone had dibs on it.
Oh, really?
No, I was kidding.
Okay.
Leon's sister's like, oh, I'm going to take that. Thank you.
Yeah, but anyway, I think I'm not really, as far as we know, I'm not willing to question much. I think she's still I think she still has a focus on the Spirit. I think this team needs to start going out and winning soccer games and building. I think last year's season definitely left a poor taste in everybody's mouth. And I think honestly they need to. I'm hopeful they get this coaching hire right. You know what it could have honestly been. It could have honestly been they went out and they hired the coach, and then they're like, all right, I think we need to readjust here because we had to pay a lot to bring this coach in. We also know for a fact that they have let go of a lot of a lot of staff that a lot of fans really liked, and I think that's encompassing on the fact that the sales maybe haven't been to their expectations. So those people have been asked to leave, and new people are coming in. So it'll be an interesting story to watch. I don't want to say the honeymoon period is over, but I think it's maybe running a little thin with some fans, and they want to see results and they want to see a successful team. And it's not easy watching your New York rivals gobble up a bunch of players and you're kind of sitting pat. So yeah, remains to be seen. All right, folks, I think that's going to do it for this episode. We called a long show and we gave you all a long show. So we'll probably be back in a couple weeks. We'll have maybe some other content once this coaching hire is official. Preseason's coming up. We'll see if we get to watch any games. I'm going to guess no. So we'll all have a nice, lovely guessing period. And by the way, like MLS and NWSL as well, you want us to care. You want us to do this. You signed this whole deal with Apple, and yet you still can't stream games. Can you just do it? Can you force at least like a tournament or something where they have to stream it? I don't know. It bugs me.
All 300 of us were very, very upset about this.
Well,
we want to see it.
Who cares how many people are watching it? It builds up excitement. It gives. You talk about, the people that do watch it are going to be the media. The people that do watch it are going to be, and those are the people. Maybe someone isn't going to watch on a Friday at noon, but someone who's paid full time to follow the league will watch, and then they can tell the fans who listen, the 5,000, 6,000 fans, hey, I saw great things from Gabriel Pirani. He looks like he is rejuvenated. Yeah. It's I don't know. They need to stop thinking about how many people are actually watching and understand that having these games broadcast also serves your media personalities who will watch it well and allows them to give content that the fans want to hear so you can grow excitement for the season.
Right.
Anyway.
Media people paid full-time and media people paid not full-time. That's a reminder to go to patreon.com/RFK Refugees. Should you want us to watch a preseason game at noon on a Friday, that's a good way. That's a good way to get us to do that. So thank you. We actually got 2 new Patreons this last week. I'm not going to do names, but thank you very much for that. Please join us, and then you'll get an extra shows on Fridays that no one else gets to hear ever. So that's a nice thing for you.
Yep. All right, folks, that's going to do it. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you guys for all the support you've given us. We will catch you guys in a couple weeks. Vamos.